Hello, beautiful people. I pray you guys are having an amazing day. I just come to tell y'all that it's time to give God a real yes. This message is not meant to scare nobody. This message is meant to just let be real with y'all. Because just think about it. A lot of times we tell God yes, but we still go back to doing the old things. What's the purpose of telling him yes if you're not willing to change, if you're not wanting to change, if you're not willing to give everything to him? Truly. It's so important that we give God a real yes, because let me tell y'all, I was sitting in my room one night. I want to say I was like 22. I had to be at least 22. This was in 2018. And I was sitting in my bed and my heart started palpitating. I didn't realize that what I was scrolling about and scrolling and looking at on social media. This is why we got to be careful about what we look at and what we tune into and what we put our mind in. So I was on social media scrolling, and I was seeing how kids were committing suicide left and right. It was like a instant thing. It was just back to back, back to back, back to back. So then I seen where these kids talked about how they made a suicide pact. And I'm like, oh my God. Then I turned around and I seen a childhood friend of mine had passed away, but it wasn't from suicide, but she had died suddenly. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? So what I didn't understand is I was taking all that and I was consuming that and I was putting that into my spirit and I was carrying that weight. I started beginning to carry it because I'm like, these kids need prayer, they need guidance, they need somebody that's gonna stand in the gap for them, they need somebody to do something, somebody that's gonna lead them, somebody that's gonna be a great example for them. And at the time, y'all, I couldn't be that example because I was too busy in the world partying, drinking, getting high, smoking, doing everything I could possibly think of. And I'm like, Lord, what's going on? And even at that moment when I was doing the things that I wanted to do, God was convicting me. He was pushing me to the point where I couldn't even get high without feeling like a lunatic. I felt like I was hallucinating. Every time I would pick up some weed or I would even try to smoke it, my mind would just start doing this thing where I would just feel like I had things going around my head and I felt like I was going crazy. So let me tell y'all something about the God I serve. Even though I was in the world, he was still trying to save me from the world. He was trying to show me that I called you. You have a purpose. So let me tell y'all can't tell me that God will not speak to you while you in the world. It's a lot of y'all God is speaking to right now, but you ignoring him. So it's important that we give God a real yes, because right now, when the times we living in, we see the Bible unfolding right before our eyes, and we still want to ignore it. But when that time comes, when that trumpet sounds, are you gonna be ready, or are you gonna spend eternity in hell? Because I refuse to burn. I refuse to burn because of my own afflictions. I refuse to burn because of something that I put myself in, when God has given me all the tools to get through this thing called life. So when I sat in that bed, that hospital bed, from 2 a.m. to 4 p.m. the next day, I had to think about that thing. I had no other choice but to play gospel music, because every time I tried to sit there and want to listen to anything other than that, I had to think about the fact of, I did this to myself. This is what got me here, because I want to sit up here and try to deal with things my own self. I want to try to handle things my own self. I never in life told people about what I went through. I never in life told people about the problems and the situations I went through. I always carried it. So it got to a point where God was like, okay, you're not going to carry this no more. You ain't got no choice but to give it to me. So in that moment, I started feeling like my heart was about to beat out my chest. And I didn't like that feeling at all. Felt like I didn't know who I was. So let me tell you what I did. They said, I'm going to put you on this medicine. I said, y'all not going to put me on no medicine, because I don't want to be stuck on no medicine. I don't want the medicine to have me acting like a zombie and I'm walking around here looking crazy. So what I did was I went and started praying. I started praying like I ain't never prayed before. I started praying and applying the word to my life and my situation. I hadn't gave God a real yes yet. So I started going to therapy, and I started digging deeper, and I started finding out the triggers to the things that I was going through. And I didn't realize until that moment while I was in therapy that my problem was I was scared to die. I was scared to die because I didn't know I was going to spend eternity. I knew that because I was living lukewarm, because I understand, and I knew that I had a calling on my life. I knew that I was different. People have been telling me that since I was in middle school, but I had already knew that in my mind, because I was having dreams. I was having prophetic dreams. I was having moments where I would begin to see stuff just happen before my eyes, and I'm like, this is not really happening, but the stuff would begin to come to pass, but I was ignoring it. So eventually it came to a point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. Let me tell you how good God is. couldn't ignore it anymore. Because it came to a day where I saw my dad's death happen before my eyes. Then my dad's death happened. And in that moment, I used that moment, that could have been a sad moment, to draw me closer to God. And as I drew closer to God, it made the weight of his death easier. Not saying that the hurt is not still there some days. Not saying that I don't still have moments. But it made it easier to handle because I did everything that God told me to do prior to his death. So y'all better start giving God a release. If you know that he's calling on you, if you know that you have people behind you that's waiting on you to give God a yes, do that. I promise you it'll be the best decision you ever.